38. The child queries his mother to learn of deviancy and truth. Metal and wood, reaching the deep, see the false and the real. I meet you to speak just on the cause of birth. That'll make you one of Buddha's assembly. One calm thought sees him in this realm of dust. The whole world watches the God who subdues. If you'd know today's true, enlightened Lord, you must ask your mother of former years. There's another world you have never seen. For each step in life may bring something new. We were telling you about the Prince of the Black Rooster Kingdom who, after he took leave of the great sage, soon returned to his city. Indeed, he did not approach the gate of the court, nor did he dare announce his arrival. Going instead to the rear gate of the servants, he found that it was guarded by several eunuchs. When they saw the prince approaching, however, they dared not stop him and let him pass. Dear Prince. Pressing his horse, he galloped inside and went straight up to the brocade fragrance pavilion, in which the queen was seated, with scores of palace maidens waving their fans on both sides. The queen, however, was reclining on the carved railings of the pavilion and shedding tears. Why was she shedding tears, you ask? For at the hour of the fourth watch, you see, she too had a dream, but she could remember only half of it. She was trying very hard to recall the other half when the prince dismounted and knelt beneath the pavilion, saying, "Mother." Forcing herself to appear delighted, the queen cried out, "Son, what joy! What joy! For these 2 or 3 years, you have been staying in the front palace to study with your father king, and I have not been able to see you. How I have thought of you! How is it that you have the leisure today to come see me instead? This is truly my greatest joy, my greatest joy. Oh son, why do you sound so sad? Your father king, after all, is getting on in his years. There will be a day when the dragon returns to the jade green sea, and the phoenix will go back to the scarlet heavens. You will then inherit the throne. What could there possibly be to make you unhappy?" The prince kowtowed before he said, "Mother, permit me to ask you, who is he that is on the throne now? Who is the man who uses the royal we?" When the queen heard this, she said, "This child has gone mad. The one who is ruling is your father king. Why do you ask such questions?" Again kowtowing, the prince said, "I beseech my mother to grant her son a pardon first. Only then would I dare present a further question. If you do not, I'll dare not ask." "Between mother and son," said the queen, "how could there be any criminal offense? Of course I'll pardon you. Speak up, quickly." The prince said, "Let me ask you this, are your relations with your husband just as warm and intimate as 3 years before?" When the queen heard this question, her spirit left her and her soul fled. She dashed out of the pavilion and embraced the prince tightly as tears fell from her eyes. "My child," she said, "I haven't seen you for such a long time. Why do you come to the palace today and ask this question?" "Mother," said the prince, becoming irritated, "if you have something to say, say it. If you don't speak up, you might jeopardize a very important affair." Only then did the queen dismiss all her attendants and spoke, quietly weeping. "This matter, if you, son, did not ask me, would never have come to light even when I reached the 9 springs down below. Since you have asked me, listen to what I have to say. 3 years ago he was loving and warm. For 3 years now he has been cold as ice. By the pillows I've pressed him long and hard. He said, 'I'm old, I'm frail, I can't make that something rise.'" When the prince heard these words, he at once struggled free and mounted his horse once more. Clutching at him desperately, the queen said, "Child, what are you doing? Why do you leave before we finish speaking?" Again the prince knelt on the ground and said, "Mother, I dare not speak, though I must. During the time of the early court this morning, I went out by imperial decree to hunt with falcons and dogs. By chance I met a holy monk sent by the throne in the land of the East to fetch scriptures. He has under him a senior disciple by the name of Pilgrim Sun, who is an expert in the subjugation of fiends. I was told that my real father king had been murdered in the imperial garden. He died, in fact, in the well with the octagonal marble walls. It was the Taoist who falsely changed into the form of Father King and usurped his dragon seat. Last night, Father King appeared to the monk in a dream and asked him to send his disciple to the city to catch this fiend. Your child did not dare believe them completely, and that was why I came specially to question you. Now that Mother has spoken like this, I know that there must be a monster spirit here. Oh son, said the queen. How could you take the words of some stranger outside as the truth? The prince said. I did not, but Father King left them a sign. When the queen asked what sort of sign it was, the prince took out that white jade token inlaid with gold and handed it to her. Recognizing at once it was a treasure that had belonged to the king, the queen could not hold back the torrents of tears. My lord, she cried. How could you not come to see me first, if you had been dead for 3 years? How could you go to see the sage monk first, and then the prince afterwards? Mother, said the prince. What are you saying? The queen said. My child, I also had a dream last night at about the hour of the 4th watch. I dreamed that your father king stood before me dripping wet, and he told me himself that he was dead. His spirit, he said, had gone to plead with the Tang monk to subdue the specious king, and to save his former body. I clearly recall these words, but there is another half of the dream which I just cannot remember. I was speculating just now by myself when you arrived with your questions and this treasure. Let me put away the jade token for the moment. You should go and ask the sage monk to do what he must do quickly, so that the demonic miasma may be dispelled and the perverse and true can be distinguished. That's the way you can repay your father king's kindness in rearing you. Swiftly mounting his horse, the prince went out of the rear gate of the servants and slipped away from the city. Truly, holding back his tears, he kowtowed to leave the queen. In grief, he went to bow again to the Tang monk. In a little while, he was out of the city gate and went straight to the gate of the Precious Grove Monastery, where he dismounted. As the soldiers came to receive him, the sun began to set. The prince gave the order for the soldiers to remain where they were stationed. Again by himself, he walked inside after straightening out his clothes to solicit pilgrims' assistance. Just then the Monkey King swaggered out from the main hall, and the prince at once went to his knees, saying, Master, I've returned. Pilgrim went forward to raise him, saying, Please rise. Did you ask anyone when you reached the city? I did, said the prince, and he gave a complete account of the conversation with his mother. Smiling gently, Pilgrim said, If he is that cold, he must be the transformation of some kind of cold-blooded creature. Don't worry. Don't worry. Let old monkey get rid of him for you. But it's getting late now, and I can't move. You go back first, and I'll arrive tomorrow morning. Kowtowing repeatedly, the prince said, Master, I'll stay here to wait upon you until tomorrow, and then I can travel with you. That's no good, said Pilgrim. If we enter the city together, the fiend would become suspicious. Instead of a chance meeting, he'll think that you have gone somewhere especially to fetch me. The whole arrangement will make him blame you, will it not? Even if I go back now, said the prince. He will still blame me. Why? Asked Pilgrim. The prince said, I was commanded during the early court to lead this number of men and horses, of falcons and dogs, to leave the city. But when I go back today, I have no game to present to the throne. If he accuses me of being incapable and has me jailed in Yoli, whom would you rely on when you enter the city in the morning? There is no one, after all, in the ranks who knows about this. That's nothing, said Pilgrim. You should have told me earlier about this, and I'd have found some game. Dear great sage, look at the way he shows off before the prince. With a bound he leapt straight up to the clouds, made the magic sign, and recited the spell, Let O and Ram purify the Dharma realm, which summoned a mountain, god and a local spirit. They arrived and bowed to him in midair, saying, Great sage, what is your wish when you command these humble deities to appear? Pilgrim said. Old Monkey arrives here in the company of the Tang monk, and he now intends to catch a wicked demon. Unfortunately, the prince did not catch any game during the hunt and he dared not return to the court. I am, therefore, going to ask you for a small favor. Please find for us some fallow deer, antelopes, wild hares, and fowls, a few pieces of each kind so that we can send him off. Not daring to disobey when they heard this instruction, the mountain god and the local spirit inquired as to how many heads of wild game were needed. It doesn't matter, said the great sage. Just bring us some. The two deities, leading the demon soldiers under their command, called up a strong gust of dark wind to round up the wild animals. They caught some grouse and pheasants, horned deer and fat fallow deer, foxes, badgers, and hares, tigers, leopards, and wolves, all in all, several hundred of these which they brought before Pilgrim. Pilgrim said, Old Monkey has no need of these. Pull out their leg tendons and place them on both sides of the 40-mile road leading back to the city. Those people will then be able to take them back without having to use falcons and dogs, and this will be counted as your merit.